So hello, and welcome back everyone to Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett, Alderman and Vice Mayor of the City of Chicago. Like to thank you all for viewing again. Happy New Year's to everyone if we missed you last month. We're in the month of February. Happy Valentine's Day and all of those good things that's going on. Hopefully there's a lot of love out there. We like to thank everyone who helped us to put this show together. I'd like to welcome all of my guests, all of these beautiful African Latinas and French people here in the audience. So today, everyone, we're going to be talking about the African diaspora, right? And the African Diaspora Museum that's being proposed here in the city of Chicago. As some of you all know, during slavery, we were dropped off in a lot of different places around the world. Folks think that African Americans are only here in America, but we're all over the world, and not just African Americans, but African different ethnicities. So we're going to talk about our culture of diversity here in the city of Chicago. So today we have with us Judge Lionel Jean-Baptiste from Haiti. We also have with us from Puerto Rico, Brenda Torres-Figueroa. And she's the interdisciplinary artist, curator, and art educator. And then we also have with us from Colombia, we have with us Cecilia Mowatt, right? And Cecilia is an attorney and president of her company Strategies and Sight Incorporated. I see her everywhere. I think she's
we started the week together.
Yeah, she's everywhere for many years. And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the leader who's trying to get a museum for the diaspora from Colombia, Dr. Vicky Castillo, founder of the Afro-Latino Historical Society and the African Diaspora Museum. Welcome. Thank all of you all for being here today. So ladies and gentlemen, years ago, a bunch of aldermen, they had a display at the Mexican Museum of Arts. And there was a display about, what was it? It was,
the blacks in Mexico from the Junga.
Yeah, it was about the Africans in Mexico. Right? And the African American aldermen and the Latino aldermen went to that display. And we all visited it, and we all found out how much we had in common. There was some interesting things when we went there. And if you ever go to Mexico, which I've been several occasions, there's folks as dark as you, right? There's a city in Mexico called Veracruz, where there's a lot of Prieto, dark, Mexicans who are there. A lot of slaves was over there. They even told a story about how during the Underground Railroad, when folks were leaving slavery from America, they ended up going back to Mexico to live. Yeah. Right? Sort of like what they did, I think, is that in Africa. What's that country we have in Africa called? Is it Libya?
Oh, Liberia.
Liberia. Like they did in Liberia. So there's a lot of heritage that we have all over the world. People tend to try to divide us, right, with these different cultures, and beliefs there's people of African descent, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Colombia, all over the world. I go to the Dominican. I swear for God, every time I go to the Dominican, I see somebody who looks just like my cousin. Hey, man, you look just like my cousin, man. But they speak Spanish, right? So we're all over the world. So why don't you guys introduce yourself to the audience? And instead of starting with you, Judge, we're going to go with the ladies first, okay?
It's fine, because the leadership is from...
So, Doctor, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell them about yourself and tell them about what you're trying to do here.
Okay, I'm Dr. Vicky Castillo. I am born and raised in Colombia, in the Pacific coast of Colombia. I went to school in the capital city in Bogota. So it was a very kind of traumatic experience for me, because Bogota is a little bit racist. And I came from a region, El Chocó, in the Pacific coast, that is almost 90% people of African descent. The entire Pacific coast in Colombia is people of African descent, because we were the children of the slaves that were working in the sugarcane plantations and the gold mines. So when I finished college, I completed my system engineering bachelor degree. I went back to my region. I was working at University of Chocó, and there was so many problems in a region because of racism. So we are the most underdeveloped regions in Colombia. So as a surprise, where black people live, so that is where more problem we have. So I needed to, at some point, to reassess my career. So I went back to school and I did a graduate degree in regional development planning, kind to help to solve problems in the community. So after 7 years, I decided to come to the United States, to kind of learn about the process of empowerment of the African American community through the civil rights movement. So, and it was really a great experience. So through that process, I was exposed to this research of the Dr. Eva Van Sertima. So they came before Columbus. The Africans in Ancient America, the most impressive book. I don't know if any one of you have read that.
What is the book called?
The book.
They came before Columbus.
They came before Columbus. They came
before Columbus.
So nobody knew, because they only knew
they came to America before Columbus.
The whole American continent. Africans had been here and collaborated with Native people long before Columbus came. That's why you find the pyramids, the great statue with the broad nose and stuff like that. But that's a very impressive research.
Yes.
So
but that informs you as to what to do here today, right?
Yeah.
That informs you as to what we should be trying to do, to teach that.
So precisely like that. So this research deals with huge headstones. The future of Africa is the most impressive thing. And now they are trying to demonstrate through DNA tests that they are not the African origins. And this is what we are trying to really address with the museum, because everybody is talking about the African history, but through the European lenses. Taking our historical credit. And at some point we are allowing that to happen.
Yeah, so why don't we introduce everybody and come back?
Yeah,
but just because we'll get deeper into this, And what I will say, my name is Cecilia Mowatt. I am president of Strategies Insight. I need to make one correction, Vice Mayor. You said you are Colombian. I am American. I am first generation American, born to a Colombian mother who grew up in Panama and a father who was from Jamaica. Both of them immigrated to Chicago, met here in Chicago, having going to school and whatnot, and the end result was my 5 brothers and I, born here. I would say back in the day when we said Black Hispanic, I would say I'm Black Hispanic. And everybody always thought that meant my mother was white. They never thought, when they heard that she was from Colombia, they couldn't understand, and they assumed that, oh, that's so exotic a combination, thinking it was mixed. But it's fun for me to be here today and to be seeing the progression that Dr. Vicky Castillo has made in her vision, because the first time I met her as a Black Afro-Colombiana, I was like, yes, another one of us, because people don't look at us as being Latin. They assume we are not. So anyway, my company is Strategies Insight, and my practice has been in holistic, inclusive, equitable economic development. You cannot develop a community if you do not recognize who is in the community. And the reason for the museum, in my mind, is that it is allowing us to recognize who's in the community and the roots of the community. And this is very important. And I'll say more about that after I hand it over to Brenda.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful context. My name is Brenda Torres-Figueroa. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, also a student of the public system and product of the public system of education of Puerto Rico. I moved here in Chicago 23 years ago, half of my life ago, to go to school, to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And immediately I fell in love with the Puerto Rican community, because that's my people. Humboldt Park is my second home. And this is where the conversation also come into place, and the need and essence of this kind of work and how it impacts our communities, right, that are beyond the people that are looking like us, and how do we see ourselves reflected. So as an interdisciplinary artist, I have my studio in Paseo Boricua in Humboldt Park, but I also own a gallery space that we opened on October 20th that is called El Schomburg. And this space is honoring Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, that it was of Afro-Puerto Rican, born and raised in Santurce, Puerto Rico, that it was actually a maroon settlement. And I want to bring that to the table. When we are talking about Afro-Latinidad and our African heritage, we tend to just put it in the context of enslavement. And I really want to continue pushing that approach that many of our people, like for example in Puerto Rico, when they abolished slavery, 5 to 7% of the people were enslaved, of the Black people. So what that means, most of the people were free. And they were able to own land, and they were rooting in these 2 settlements. One was Santurce, and the other one is Loíza. And we have in Loíza tradition, go 400 years of the presence of African people there. So for me, it is extremely important to unite the resistance that the Puerto Rican community have had for many years, and the struggles, for political resolutions, right, that have not yet met, because Puerto Rico is still a colony, right? And what does that mean in the terms of, even the work that historically have been done by our Black ancestors, right? Because it's there. We fought, our people fought from the independence, but they were revolting for their freedom. There are a lot of connections in there. So I really wanted to reflect on that when we were talking to Afro-Latinidad, that we can literally push beyond the enslavement narrative and really think about Maronish or the, because Chocó is like, it's a palenque, it's like, we need to bring those in. So yes.
You have to explain the palenque because this is not just going to the folks that understand.
Right. Some people
and the
don't
whole
know what
point
you're
is
talking about,
to
right.
give the awareness. So you said a couple of things there. You mentioned the Maroons. So speak a little bit more about that, and then the palenque. Describe, because the whole idea. Okay. So
go ahead. So what's the palenque?
The palenque. O sea, the palenque was the free territory for the runaway slave.
Okay.
And it was palenque in all the territories, like in Mexico, for instance. Yanga, when we talk about Yanga was the second free territory of the Americas. It was in 1609, even before the first African were in United States. That was in 1619, in 1609. So it was the palenque of Yanga. The government of Spain needed to sign a free peace treaty with them because they were so strong that they couldn't dominate and control them. So in order for have peace in the community, they needed to sign a peace treaty with them. The same thing happened in Colombia, in Brazil, but Colombia was the first one. It was the San Basilio de Palenque. It still exists. It's next to Cartagena. And that was in 1603. That was the free territory for the runaway slave.
Okay. So there was power. The message I'm getting is that there was power from our other black brethren, African brethren that were in other parts of the world before we even made it here to the U.S.
They had freedom already.
They had freedom already, and they were negotiating. They were negotiating treaties. That is something that we don't think about.
And that's why a diaspora's museum is very important.
Yes.
So and muchas gracias for that. Coincidentally, I did go to Loíza, Puerto Rico after the hurricanes. Myself and some of us elected officials went there to donate some stuff. And I did meet the mayor there. And it's a very pretty poor city. A lot of Prietos or dark Puerto Ricans. And one of the things that I got from that meeting and talking to the mayor, or listening to the mayor, was that most of them were dark there and they got stuff last, right? That they is still even today, because they're the darker community, they got stuff last. That's what the mayor was saying over there, even with the donations after the hurricanes. So a lot of the Puerto Rican aldermen here was making sure that they did stuff in that town because of that, right? So it's back to where I said where sometimes darker people get discriminated against all over the world. And that's why I felt that there, and of course in a lot of other places that I've been around the world, you see it, you feel it, so I just wanted to say that. So Judge, why don't you tell us where you from and tell us about what you're doing?
Okay, well.
And Judge, I done seen you over the years wearing 100 hats, especially in the Haitian community, but also trying to preserve the likeness and the remembrance of Jean-Baptiste du Sable.
Well, I think that, I've been fortunate to have gotten a strong education, so to whom much is given, much is expected. I was born in Haiti, came here at 14, so most of my life have been here. Went to high school here, went to college, and before I even came here, I was soaked in my history. Being Haitian, we grow up memorizing our history. It is a history that is rooted in struggle and in resistance. The reason why we would talk about the 1600s is because Africans were being transported here way in the 1400s. And so Africans have been struggling to shape the world and make it a better place since that time. And in America, we are where we are today because, as opposed to being in 1619, we're not in Virginia in 1619 right now. We've changed the world because of the struggles of people. So it's the value added that is brought to this fight that we ourselves are talking about establishing a museum to share information. We talk about performance art. We talk about strategies of development. We talk about a mix of Jamaican, Colombian, African Americans. We talk about Colombian. I went to a world conference against racism in South Africa in 2000, 2001. You'd be surprised to see Africans from all over the planet there. And it is the convergence of these Africans that were making a demand to make sure that we came to the conclusion that slavery, slave trade, and colonialism were crimes against humanity. And therefore, we needed rectification through reparations. So the struggles of people need some presence in our community. And we think that part of the poverty is not just material poverty, but mental and educational deficiencies. And United States has failed to teach the total history, although there's a real struggle going on right now. And I know that the governor of Florida wants to put the genie back in the bottle. It's impossible to do that. So what the museum is looking to do is to begin to bring the presence of scholars, of performers, of storytellers, so that our children can be exposed to the richness of their own history. You're right when we say, sometime when we're surprised to hear there are Africans in Mexico, many people would be surprised to know that the largest concentration of Africans is in Brazil. Outside of Nigeria, right? The highest population. So there's a lot of knowledge to bring forth, and not only the sharing of the knowledge at the site through all kinds of means, but also potential exchanges, right? So our kids could step out of the United States and see themselves in a context where they're the majority.
Yes.
A friend of mine who works at one of the local colleges, they took some youth to Ghana. And first reaction that my friend told me is that when a young brother stepped out the plane and he see only black people, initially he was scared. It was like, what? What's happening here? And then, but subsequently he was like empowered, to see himself. And in those nations, even though we may still have some disparities, but in some of those nations, we are the lawyers, we are the engineers, we are the bankers. The symbolism, the monuments, and all the rest of those things are representation of what we have done. So it's a paradigm shift that this museum could represent and could bring a lot of activities, attract a lot of people, businesses, guests, conferences, so that we can enrich the community in which it would sit and beyond. So that's what's going on.
So you're Haitian. So Haitians...
I call myself Haitian American, and I got a little bit of Trinidadian in me because my wife is Trinidadian. So, and we've been together 50 years. So,
Okay.
so you know.
So
you know what time it is.
Haitians, and for people who don't know, Haitians, you all's dialect is predominantly French.
Well, the French were the ones who were the last enslavers, and we kicked them out of the island, but we created our own language. We call it Haitian Creole. Right? But it's not the Creole that everybody else is.
Not the Creole from New Orleans.
Well, some people understand that, and some people understand us in Martinique and Guadeloupe and Dominica, but Haitian Creole is somewhat unique to its own experience because it came out of the various dialects that the Africans brought, because we came with different linguistic groups, and there was a melding of the pot there. So yes, so we speak French too, but French is primarily the language of those who have been educated the most. So the masses of Haitians, they communicate through Creole, but so we have two official languages, French and Creole. So that's what we have.
And you mentioned Brazil.
Yes.
And they speak Portuguese there.
Yeah.
Portuguese there.
Yes, the colonizers.
Yes, the colonizers. So you got Portuguese, you got French, you got Spaniards,
you got English,
and Dutch. In South Africa, you have, what are they? The Afrikaners.
Yeah, there were Dutch too.
And the British, of course, occupied a lot of things all over the world. Even with the Latinos, the ones that's not, some are predominant. A lot of Latinos are mixed with Africans. Some aren't. Some are just Spaniards and Indian. Right. Yeah. So all of us been through these things around the world. Right. But then even if you go to Sierra Leone and other African countries, they've been occupied and they speak different languages because of, these folks going around the country and colonizing and taking over, right? And a lot of times, in most instances, it was for materials and goods and also for labor, right? Yeah. So which is a good too, right? And it was all about
the
money.
Most important good.
Yeah.
So beyond the slave trade is the carving of the African continent, 1885, the Berlin Conference, when the Europeans came together and said, okay, what part do you want? So
isn't that something?
Is the French, is the Belgium, Portuguese, and all the rest of them. So there was a lot of struggle in the 1970s. What we know, Kwame Nkrumah, who was a student at Lincoln University here in the United States, led the fight in Ghana towards independence. There were it was a Pan-African kind of struggle that began to liberate those nations from the European direct colonial occupation. They left behind a number of neo-colonies. And so today we have a number of those former neo-colonies, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, who are trying to throw off the last vestige of European colonialists and neo-colonies. So you're right, they carved out, they said that's ours. The Belgium, they cut off arms, they did all kinds of mean things to people.
Yeah, one of the things like whenever I speak at a Black History Month thing to a lot of young people, I try to express to them, especially us here in America, most of us who came through slavery, I try to express to them that we are the strongest of the strongest.
Yes.
Right? Because we are the survivors.
You got that right.
Right?
Absolutely.
We are the survivors of, some horrific things to get here.
Yeah.
Right? And unfortunately, in some instances, we went through even some of our own folks selling us out,
but that's
right?
Where it started.
And selling us out, and then we come on ships, and we get chained up and sit in mess and get whipped and a whole bunch of things, and see things happen to our family, and so much trauma, that happened where we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're still standing strong, right? And then, and we're blessed to have our next generations that come from that era. A lot of us are siblings of those folks who made it, right? And been through that and made it here, and so we should appreciate where we come from and recognize how strong we are, because we are survivors.
Well, there's the survival piece, but the piece that Dr. Anna Vicky really wants us to focus on, and I think you should speak to this, is the establishment piece, who we really were. Now, when I think about the Haitians, the revolution, the early revolution, and I'm bad with my dates because I'm an American, so I don't have to remember history, but the Haitian people have been leaders in showing resilience and independence. But even before that, and so Anna Vicky, could you tell a little bit more about your vision of the museum and what it should be doing to show, because people cannot be what they cannot see, and people cannot accept what they do not know. This is not just for us, for our black children, this is for all of our children, all of our community.
All over the world. So before you do that, what made me want to have you on here is because when you started talking to me, you went all the way to like the Egyptian days and Cleopatra, and a lot of those folks that's in the Bible, right? That folks didn't really recognize as being of African descent. So please.
And I'm coming back to what the judge just mentioned about Mali, because I just came from Mali, and the amazing thing is there is a tribe on Mali. They are the direct descendants of the Egyptians.
They're the descendants of the Egyptians.
The
direct descendants of the Egyptians.
I didn't know that.
Yes. This is the only community. They don't have it.
You mean the ancient Egyptians?
The
because
ancient.
there are Egyptians there now.
No, the ancient Egyptians.
Okay.
Black.
The black Egyptians.
Black Egyptians. So they have some astronomical knowledge, ancient astronomical knowledge, without having a single telescope. So some French, this have been going for more than 30 years. There's some French anthropologists, they started researching them. The knowledge that they have, it is the most impressive thing, recognized by the scientific community. So what it means, when all these colonizers, because they were colonizers that were to Egypt, Alexander the Great, well, all these people, so they started pushing the black Egyptian out. So that's what it happened. So they were living in Egypt until they got to Mali, because they were keep pushed out wherever they were.
Out.
So, but they are still is there, and at this point there is some. Now it's the Arabs. The
Arabs?
Yeah, ISIS and all these terrorist groups are there, trying to destroy this legacy, because they want all Mali to be Muslim.
Oh, wow.
So they have, even Timbuktu, at this point, a lot has been destroyed.
It's interesting that you're saying this, because Mali, for those of you who are listening and watching, Mali is one of the poorest countries in Africa, yet to hear that they have some of the richest knowledge and historical legacy.
But this is a small community. Nobody was able, not the Christian, not the Muslim, nobody was able to indoctrinate them. They were able to
hold on.
And they still. And it's the most amazing thing.
Okay, so how do we relate it? Because I know we have limited time. We talking about the museum and the repository of this kind of knowledge. So what's the expectation?
At this point, and this is one of the things they were asking, they need to save some of these artifacts. And the way we can provide that if we had a space for the museums to bring some of the stuff that they are destroying in Timbuktu.
So we're looking for space. You're looking for space,
Right,
to set up a museum to preserve artifacts that people may have from all over the world. Right? That's connected to the African diaspora.
All of that is the diaspora.
it's to preserve those artifacts, but it's to showcase those artifacts. It's to showcase the various parts of the diaspora and bring them alive.
And transfer knowledge.
And transfer the knowledge of who
But
we really are.
more importantly, is that history that has been taken from us. They have been calling us inferior.
Right.
Like I'm sure they have been taking our humanity. We were not even the entire human beings.
Right.
You know?
3/4.
And this is the reason it has been the most difficult part for them to recognize that Egypt is a black civilization, because Egypt is the mother of all the civilizations. So, and they cannot recognize that civilization was black.
But I think that Alderman Burnett, with your power on the city council, vice mayor stuff, you know, the legacy of even the mayor, who is from the west side, could be enhanced by when looking at different initiatives to try to see what value this kind of museum, because it's almost like a school, can bring to the city. And there are other Africans from the diaspora who are looking as well to return to the Commission on African and Diaspora Affairs to be able to bring businessmen, have conferences and collaboration, you know, that will be dynamic, not only from the standpoint of the history that we would share, but also to bring people from Mali, to bring people from Egypt, to bring historians who will tell our stories from all over the place, from Louisla, from, you know, from Kingston, Jamaica, and various others, to bring the history to life. So this is the value of that kind of institution that I think that, you know, that Dr. Castillo is looking to bring to life.
So doctor, why don't you tell us what made you come up with this? And then since that, what have you been doing in your journey to try to get where you're going?
Okay, we started, this has been my passion for life.
Okay, so tell us.
But we started with the Afro-Latino Historical Society in 2012. And we have been doing exhibitions in universidades, in museums, everywhere. We have more than 30 black presidents in Latin America, black presidents in 19th century. With Christopher Columbus, the owner of La Niña, it was a black family. It's a Spanish family.
So can you say that again?
Did you just say that the owner of La Niña, the boat that that Columbus sailed, was a black family? I did not know this.
The owner of the boat was a black family?
Was a black family.
La Niña.
Pero Alonso Niño, he was the owner and the pilot. But that was a black family from Spain, Los Niños. And it was in all the voyages. Listen.
Okay, well, don't get into
the specifics.
You know, give us all the time on the specific. How do we go forward?
So this history is just too much. Coming to Haiti, the independence of all Latin American countries, they could be done without Haiti.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Simon Bolivar went to Haiti
To get help.
See, I never heard of that. Never heard of that.
Yeah.
They couldn't.
The
They didn't teach
interconnections.
that in my school.
But they don't teach anything.
They don't teach it nowhere. This has been, believe me, this has been more than 20 years of me being a libraries and book and my entire life has
so
been
we've been
this.
together and we've been helping each other because everybody always try to show that we always are divided.
That's a good point, and we are not. And we've worked together across countries, as you said, and we continue to do so. And the fact that you said, how many were presidents in Latin America, black presidents? So we were at levels. And so the whole point, in my mind, is the education of our Chicago community. And this is not just a, philanthropic do-gooders thing. This is also, when we talk about Choose Chicago, this can be a tourist attraction. Mm-hmm. It can be a point of education. It can be a point of community, a community unity, because we have been working against the issues that have divided the brown and black communities for a long time. Education about who we were and how we were. Most Latinos don't know. Most Mexicans never went to that exhibit at the Mexican Fine Arts Museum to know that there are black Mexicans.
It was called The Black Presence in Mexico.
The Black Presence in Mexico. Most of us don't know that. The assumption is that if you see somebody who is black and they say they're Latin, like I said, they say my mother was white, but I look just like my mother. A little bit louder than her, but just like her. So we need to do this.
So on your journey, so where are you? So you came, you discovered you were inspired, you got inspired, all right? And then from your inspiration, you started doing more research?
Yes.
And you traveled all over the world?
Still.
Yeah.
On your own dime?
On my own dime, because most of these projects are not financed by the institution because it goes against what they have been promoting. So they don't want this truth to come alive. This is the reason we have to work together to bring this,
So, part of the collaboration is that Dr. Castillo had a sort of traveling exhibits that she put on. I know in the city of Evanston, we did some Black History Month projects where we featured her work in the exposition of that kind of lineage of African leadership, even in the quote-unquote Latin countries, whether it was Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, and others. And so that she has been teaching that for a while. And right now it's about institutionalizing the work, citing it, having a home for it, and finding a way for it to be productive and sustainable to the kind of tourist attraction, to other means, for people to perhaps pay at the door to come in to see stuff, and to have some private and public donors to make this thing happen. The history that we are talking about will empower our people collectively. Many people, as you say, you didn't know that the role that Haiti played in Latin American independence. I mean, the Haitian independence movement, 1791 to 1804 is when independence was declared. And once Dessalines was able to lead the country to independence, Simon Bolivar, who was observing, who was engaged in the fight for independence in Latin America, came and got assistance. They got resources from the leadership, and leadership went and waged struggle in Latin America for independence. On the condition, the support was given on the condition that Simon Bolivar will free the slaves wherever he went. There are other engagements. Haitian activists after independence in 1804 came to New Orleans. then Mark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Nat Turner were influenced by, the kind of work that was done. The impact of that Haitian Revolution was when we kicked the French out of the continent, they had to sell the Louisiana territory to the United States, which now occupies 19 states. It's not just the state of Louisiana. So there's a lot of impact in terms of the movement of African people throughout the diaspora that the teaching will empower our people, our youth, to be able to understand and see themselves beyond the neighborhood, beyond the local community, beyond the state, beyond the United States, and see themselves as world citizens.
Right, and we start recognizing each other.
That's right.
Like even right now, I mean, we're going through this thing with the migrants coming here, the Venezuelans, and you hear people talking, and and I stay over. There's a shelter over by the park where I live, and I go to the park. Right, I'm walking my dogs in the park, and these kids out there playing basketball, they got curly hair, right? Dark skin, they playing basketball. I say, "What's up, fellas?" Nobody say anything. I said, "Buenos dias." Everybody say, "Buenos dias." Right? But they all are black. They all look like myself and my children. And I just assumed that they were African American. But they say, "Buenos dias." I was so happy that I said that. Because they're like, "What is he saying?" I say, "Buenos dias." But the thing is that, a lot of folks, even now, had things out, like even when we went to the Mexican Fine Arts, they were showing the display of how even with black African leadership, they would display them in the newspaper as white, right? They would show the president. They would show the president of Mexico, who was black, who was dark. They would show him in the paper as being white.
Lighten everybody.
They lighten them up for the public and for the world to think that they got a white president, but it was a black president. And even now, when you see things in the media, a lot of African Americans don't even recognize the Venezuelans as being dark. People of color, right? And they just assume that everybody is Latino and they light complected and all of those things. And we don't recognize that we're all related. Right?
We all started in Africa.
We're all related.
White, black, red, and purple.
And all the immigrants are not Venezuelans either.
All of
That's right.
Venezuelans. So let's touch on that. Yeah. We didn't touch on that because we even had a thing in the city council where we had a hearing with the black, with the diaspora that came to say that all of the migrants aren't Venezuelan.
No. Yeah.
Some are from Haiti, Colombia. What are some of the other countries?
Brazil.
Ecuador, a lot of Ecuador, Uruguay.
Yeah.
There's some from the African continent.
From the African continent.
That's right.
So this is not just a Venezuelan thing, and this is affecting all of us. Right?
And
go ahead, sis.
Well, as it's affecting all of us, the most important thing is for all of us, not just we that are black or from the diaspora, but all of us who are residents here in Chicago, to understand that the people that we see are people, to start understanding their stories. And I'd like you to talk, Brenda, a little bit about the use of art to tell the story, because that will be part of the museum as well. The education through art and the use of it. If you could share a little bit about that.
Part of my process of I work with a lot of immigrant students that particularly arrived to Clemente High School. They only speak Spanish and Quechua. So for me, it's like also breaking the paradigms of how do we learn art, right? Art as we know it in here is very Eurocentric, right? Because that's also part of our dehumanization. You take our stories away, right? And if we don't have our stories away, we are tend to replicate things that have no necessarily connection to us. And then they capitalize on it. So that's very problematic. So instead of teaching painting the traditional way, I opt to tell a story through the art that we create. And some of them are maps, going back to the astronomical processes, right? And sometimes, those maps include people that were not necessarily in the physical realm, right? And it's like teaching ways of how to do different types of root work, right? How to connect with each other in a meaningful way.
Yes.
And it's not linear. There's no timeline, right? It's past, present, and future. So that's how, and it's very interesting to see also a space that we can, elevate that magic, right? Because
Yes.
we don't have to, right? See the artifacts that we created as something that it belongs to a timeline, and it have to be telling a very traumatic story, because that also happen a lot. That is like the value of the object or the artifact is based on the trauma that it exists within. So that's something that is like, I really want to see how do we project ourselves in the future,
Yes.
And I think that's something
This
that
is
as
important for
we
that
move
reason.
forward, how do we educate our people to see themselves not, the past is important, but also how we envision ourselves in the future. And I think that's the power of art in this
And I
context.
love that.
But so I think it's important, guys, and I really appreciate you all. It's good to you have culture. I tell you, one of the great things is that we get all these things out with DNA and 23andMe, and I got a little Mali blood in me, and you get to really know some of your identity now. That you of course, with a whole bunch of other stuff, but you get really know, you got some kind of place that you can say you came from, or you got home, or you got a culture, and now you want to learn these cultures and stuff, and so so you're looking for a space. I know you're talking to myself, you're talking to the mayor, you're talking to the elected officials, you're talking to people all over, you're trying to get a space so you can open up this museum for the diaspora. And a lot of people are going to say, and I just want to put this out there real quick, why you not doing it with the DuSable Museum, right? So can you explain that real quick? Because that's going to come up.
Because the DuSable Museum...
And let's try to do it quick.
Okay, the DuSable Museum, it has been focused in the African American history.
Okay.
And they have been doing an amazing job, But this museum is all over the world. It's everything, because that's what we represent in Latin America. There is 20-something countries, and the history in each one of those countries is amazing. The Caribbean, it's everything. We go to Africa, we want to have, and that's what we need. And that history is so huge, it's so important. And this is how we are going to grow and to believe in ourselves, because they have been telling us, you are nobody. And we're going to prove ourselves. Look at this.
Well, and I also like the fact that when we do it as the diaspora, and this is a question I immediately asked her, because Perry Ermer is a friend of mine, and I'm like, I do not want to get in trouble with Perry. And she said, of course, we would collaborate with DuSable, but this is a broader approach and a focus that brings in both the Latino, all of that. And
to bring us all together.
And brings us all together. And it also, for me, having this will allow us to do something that is a vacuum right now. When we talk about the future, you just talked about the future. AI is here.
Oh, yeah.
AI has not been properly trained to know our story.
If people want to get involved with this, if they want to find out more information, if they want to donate money, if they want to help you go on these trips around the world to find artifacts, whatever the case may be, what should they do, Doctor?
Yeah, so we are organizing the website. I have one.
What's the number? Is there a website?
No, at this point it's Afro-Latino Historical Society, but we are organizing and specific for the African Diaspora Museum. We are going to have it in a month.
In a month.
So we'll have it. We will have the website.
So what should they look for on the website? What should they look for? What would you call it?
African Diaspora Museum.
So look for on the website, Africa Diaspora Museum. okay, and it should pop up, and hopefully don't no one else steal that name and try to fraud. You know, it's a lot of fraud out here, right? So you got to be careful, but look for Dr. Castillo.
Yes.
Anna Vicky, ANAVICKY. Those are 2 words.
All right,
Castillo,
and then as we get closer and you get more information down pat, you know, because there's some people, all of these things are very important for our culture, for our heritage, for our children, for the people that's coming after us, right?
That's right.
I mean, at this point, all of us, we at that age where, we cool. But we want these young people coming after us to know that they came from presidents and kings and queens and scientists and they've been all over the world and we speak several different languages, right? We want our generations that's coming behind us to know about this. So African Diaspora Museum.
So you need to invite us again.
Okay, I had to invite you. So once you get it, I had to invite you again, and even if it's not on the show, we would tape it and podcast it, right?
Okay.
So we can let people know about it. But this is very important, and I want to thank you all so much. I just felt it. I just felt that after talking with you, you're so inspiring. I just felt that I had to have you on the show, that we had to share this with the world. That you're doing such a great job, and God bless you for spending all of your money, all of your resources, going all over the world. All over the world, looking at things, it's a blessing.
I remember that, this is great because this is Black History Month.
Right.
And you've taken the lead to enlarge the consciousness of your constituents and the rest of the population in the city of Chicago. They have to know that, our history is worldwide.
Amen.
And
so engage in research, discover yourself, and stand for something because you are something.
That's
and
right.
understand that the people you see have a story behind them.
That's right.
And learn it.
And that we're all connected. So
Thank
we shouldn't
you.
judge anyone. Coincidentally, I got a Mexican sister-in-law. Her father looked just like me.
Okay.
Even though she's light, her dad is dark. Yeah. He looks like me. Isn't that something?
It's amazing.
It's a mix. So we shouldn't judge anyone because we are related, right?
Gotta ask
So Dr. Lionel Jean-Baptiste, judge.
You just give me a promotion now, I'm a doctor.
I'm sorry, Judge. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We also like to thank Brenda Torres-Figueroa, the artist and storyteller. Thank you very much for coming on to the show. And we also like to thank our Colombian, Cecilia Mowatt, Esquire, the lawyer, Colombia, Jamaican, African American,
Chicago, although I do have my Colombian passport.
See, and of course we need to say you are Boricua, Puerto Rican, see, and Haitian, and last but not least, Doctor, God bless you. Thank you very much, Dr. Anna Vicky Castillo, founder of the Afro-Latino Historical Society and the African Diasporas Museum. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Network 27. You don't have to be of African descent to support this. You can be of any descent to support history. This is the history of the world.
Of the
world. All right. God bless you all. Thank you for watching Network 27. Happy Black History Month and happy Valentine's Day. That's why she wore that red for Valentine's Day. God bless you. See you next month.